I thought helping my best friend get her dream job would strengthen our friendship forever. Instead, I handed her the knife she'd used to stab me in the back. She didn't just take the opportunity I gave her. She took my career, slept with the boss to get ahead, and convinced everyone I was disposable. But here's the thing about betrayal. It always comes with a receipt. And when I handed that receipt to the boss's wife, let's just say karma works a lot faster when you give her a little push. You know that feeling when you think you're doing something amazing for someone you love, and it ends up being the worst mistake of your life? Yeah, that was me. I literally handed my best friend the keys to my career, and she used them to lock me out. But here's the thing. Karma? She's got a hell of a sense of timing. So let me take you back to where this whole mess started. I'm talking about 5 years ago, when life actually made sense. My name's Sarah. I'm 32 now. And back then I was working as a senior marketing analyst at Henderson & Associates, this boutique marketing firm in downtown Chicago. Nothing fancy, but man, I loved that job. The team was solid, the projects were interesting, and I was genuinely good at what I did. My boss, Patricia, she'd always tell me I had this natural knack for understanding what clients wanted before they even knew it themselves. But the real highlight of my life back then? That was my friendship with Amanda. We'd been best friends since college. I'm talking late-night study sessions, road trips to nowhere, crying over bad breakups, celebrating promotions, the whole 9 yards. She was the sister I never had, you know? The person I'd call at 2 a.m. just because I needed to talk. We knew everything about each other. Or at least, I thought we did. Amanda had been working at this small startup that was barely staying afloat. Every time we'd meet for our weekly brunches at Lou Mitchell's, our spot, she'd vent about how undervalued she felt, how the company was going nowhere, how she was wasting her potential. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. Amanda was brilliant, sharp as hell, ambitious, driven. She had this way of walking into a room and just commanding attention. I always admired that about her. So when Patricia mentioned during one of our team meetings that we had an opening for a marketing coordinator position, my brain immediately went to Amanda. I mean, it seemed perfect, right? My best friend working at the same place as me. We could grab lunch together, collaborate on projects, make the daily grind actually fun. Plus, I genuinely believed she deserved a shot at something better than that sinking ship she was on. I didn't just casually mention her name either. I went all in. I talked to Patricia privately, walked her through Amanda's portfolio, highlighted all her strengths, vouched for her character. I basically put my own reputation on the line. Patricia trusted my judgment, and after a couple of interviews, Amanda got the job. God, I'll never forget the day I called her with the news. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Sarah, oh my God, Sarah, you did this for me? I can't believe it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We met up that night at this little wine bar in Wicker Park, and she must have hugged me about 15 times. She kept saying I was her guardian angel, that she'd never forget what I did for her, that she owed me everything. I felt like a damn superhero, you know? Like I'd genuinely changed someone's life for the better. If only I'd known I was basically handing her the weapon she'd used to stab me in the back. Amanda's first few weeks at Henderson & Associates were exactly what I'd hoped for. We'd grab coffee before meetings, have lunch at the Thai place around the corner, decompress after stressful client calls. She was fitting in great with the team. Everyone loved her energy, and I was proud as hell. This was the golpe, the perfect setup that I walked right into with my eyes wide shut. She picked things up crazy fast, I'll give her that. Within a month, she was handling client communications like she'd been doing it for years. Within 2 months, she was leading presentations. Patricia noticed, obviously, started giving her more responsibilities, more face time with important clients. And look, I was happy for her. Genuinely. She deserved to shine. But then something shifted. It was subtle at first. So subtle I thought maybe I was imagining it. Our lunch breaks started getting shorter. She'd say she was too busy, had to prep for a meeting, needed to finish a report. Fair enough. We all get swamped sometimes. But then she stopped asking for my input on projects. We used to brainstorm together all the time, but suddenly she was handling everything solo. The first real red flag came about 4 months in. We were both working on this pitch for a potential client, this huge retail chain that could have been a game changer for the firm. I'd done most of the initial research, spent weeks analyzing their market position, their competitors, their pain points. Amanda was supposed to help me refine the presentation. Instead, she went to Patricia with her own version of the pitch. Didn't mention my research, didn't credit any of my work, just presented it as her brilliant, original idea. Patricia loved it. And why wouldn't she? It was good work. My work, repackaged with Amanda's signature confidence. We got the client, which was great for the firm, but I felt this weird knot in my stomach. When I tried to talk to Amanda about it, she acted all innocent. Oh, Sarah, I thought we were collaborating. I didn't realize you wanted individual credit. We're a team, right? A team. Right. Then came the promotion. 6 months after Amanda started, Patricia announced that we were restructuring the marketing department. They were creating a new position, senior marketing strategist, basically a step between coordinator and my analyst role. I figured I'd at least be considered for something higher if they were shuffling things around. I'd been there for 4 years, had a proven track record, brought in major clients. Amanda got the promotion. 6 months in. Patricia called it recognizing exceptional talent and rewarding initiative. Amanda gave this gracious acceptance speech about how grateful she was for the opportunity and how she couldn't have done it without the amazing team supporting her. She looked right at me when she said that last part, with this smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. And just like that, my best friend became my superior. The person I'd vouched for, fought for, believed in. She was now above me on the corporate ladder. The Trayson was starting to reveal itself, but I was still too blind, too loyal, too stupidly trusting to see it clearly. The dynamic changed immediately. Amanda started scheduling meetings without including me. She'd make decisions about projects I was working on without consulting me. When I'd try to contribute ideas in team meetings, she'd cut me off or dismiss my suggestions with this patronizing little laugh. That's an interesting thought, Sarah, but I think we need to go in a different direction. Our personal relationship took a hit too. Those weekly brunches, they became monthly, then occasional, then basically non-existent. She was always too busy, always had somewhere more important to be. When we did manage to meet up, she'd spend the whole time talking about her wins at work, her new responsibilities, the important people she was meeting with. I'd try to share what was going on in my life, and she'd check her phone or change the subject. I started noticing other things too. The way she'd take credit for collaborative work in front of Patricia. The way she'd volunteer me for tedious tasks while she handled the high-profile stuff. The way she'd roll her eyes when I spoke up in meetings. It was like she'd forgotten we were friends, forgotten I was the reason she even had this job. But I kept making excuses for her. She's stressed. She's adjusting to the new role. She's under a lot of pressure. I told myself our friendship was stronger than office politics, that we'd laugh about this someday. God, I was naive. The real gulpy, though, the one that made me realize just how calculated this whole thing was, that came about 8 months into her time at Henderson and Associates. I started noticing she was staying late at the office. Like, really late. And she wasn't the only one. Robert Henderson, the managing partner and co-founder of the firm, was also burning the midnight oil. Now, Robert was 53, married to Catherine for 28 years, had 2 kids in college. He was professional, kept his distance from staff, very by the book, not the type to form casual friendships with employees. So when I noticed him and Amanda having these long, closed-door meetings, I thought it was about work, big projects, strategic planning, whatever. Then I saw them at Gibson's one Friday night. I was there for my cousin's birthday dinner, and there they were, tucked away in a corner booth. Nothing overtly inappropriate. No hand-holding, no kissing. But there was this intimacy to the way they were talking, leaning in close, laughing at private jokes, that kind of thing. And Amanda was wearing this dress I'd never seen her wear to work. Red, form-fitting, definitely not her usual office attire. I tried to catch her eye, maybe wave hello, but she saw me first. The look on her face, panic, then calculation, then this forced smile. She waved me over, introduced me to Robert like we were just colleagues who happened to run into each other. Oh, Robert and I are just going over the quarterly projections. You know how it is. Sometimes you need to get out of the office to really focus. Yeah, quarterly projections at a romantic steakhouse on a Friday night. Sure, I didn't confront her. I should have, but I didn't. Part of me didn't want to believe what I was seeing. Part of me was scared of what it would mean if I was right. So I did what any good friend would do. I convinced myself I was jumping to conclusions, that there was a perfectly innocent explanation. But then the late nights became more frequent, and Amanda started getting involved in decisions that were way above her pay grade. Robert would be in meetings with department heads, and Amanda would be right there beside him, taking notes, offering opinions, acting like she was his right hand. People started talking. The office rumor mill was churning. Jen from accounting pulled me aside one day during lunch. Sarah, I don't want to start drama, but you and Amanda are close, right? Has she mentioned anything about her and Robert? I played dumb, said I didn't know what she was talking about. Jen gave me this look, half pity, half concern. Just be careful, okay? Office affairs never end well, and you were the one who brought her here. People might associate you with whatever fallout happens. That's when it hit me. Amanda wasn't just having an affair with the boss. She was using it. Using him. Using the access, the influence, the pillow talk. Every piece of inside information, every strategic decision, every opportunity. She was getting them through Robert. And the worst part? She was good at it. She knew exactly how to play the game. I watched her work her magic over the next few weeks. She'd casually, mention to Robert in meetings that certain approaches might not work, always positioning her own ideas as the better alternative. She'd suggest which employees should take on which projects, conveniently assigning herself the most visible, most impressive ones. She started dressing differently too, more sophisticated, more expensive. Someone was definitely helping her afford that Burberry trench coat on a coordinator's salary. And me? I was becoming invisible. Projects I'd initiated were being reassigned. Clients I'd built relationships with were being handed to Amanda. When I tried to push back, to remind Patricia that I had seniority and experience, I'd get these vague responses about evolving team dynamics and playing to people's strengths. The Trayson was complete, and I still hadn't fully grasped it. I was the frog in the pot, the water heating up so gradually I didn't realize I was being boiled alive. The beginning of the end came on a Tuesday morning in March. Patricia called me into her office, and Robert was there too, which was unusual. They both had these serious expressions, and my heart immediately started pounding. You know that feeling when you just know something bad is coming, but you can't quite prepare for it? Sarah, Patricia started, and her voice had this careful, measured tone that people use when they're about to deliver bad news. We need to talk about your position here at Henderson & Associates. My position? I'd been crushing it lately, despite all the obstacles Amanda had been throwing in my way. I'd brought in 3 new clients in the past quarter. My performance reviews had always been excellent. What the hell was there to talk about? Robert jumped in. We've been evaluating the structure of the marketing department, and we've identified some redundancies. With Amanda's expanded role and proven capabilities, we're finding that there's significant overlap between her responsibilities and yours. Redundancies. Overlap. Corporate speak for, we don't need you anymore. I tried to keep my voice steady. I don't understand. I've been with this company for 4 years. My work speaks for itself. What redundancies are you referring to specifically? Patricia shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. It's not about the quality of your work, Sarah. It's about efficiency and resource allocation. Amanda has demonstrated the ability to handle a broader scope, and frankly, she's doing it at a more strategic level. Amanda's been here less than a year, I said, and I could hear the edge creeping into my voice. I trained her. I brought her in. I've built relationships with our clients that took years to develop. Robert cut me off. And we appreciate everything you've contributed. But the reality is, the firm is moving in a new direction, and we need people who can move with us. Amanda has shown that kind of adaptability. She's forward-thinking, she's innovative, she's sleeping with you. I wanted to scream. She's manipulating you and you're too blind to see it. But I didn't say that, because I knew it wouldn't matter. The decision had already been made. This meeting wasn't a discussion, it was a notification. Patricia cleared her throat. We're giving you 2 weeks' notice. We'll provide a generous severance package and a strong letter of recommendation. This isn't personal, Sarah. It's business. It's business. That phrase that people use when they want to do something shitty without feeling guilty about it. I walked out of that office in a daze. My hands were shaking. My vision was blurred. 4 years of work, of loyalty, of dedication, gone. And the person who'd orchestrated it, the person who'd convinced them I was dispensable, that was the woman I'd called my best friend. The woman I'd fought to get hired. The woman who'd sworn she'd never forget what I did for her. Well, she remembered. She just decided it didn't matter. I packed up my desk that afternoon. 4 years of memories stuffed into a cardboard box, photos, awards, the coffee mug my team had given me for my work anniversary. People avoided eye contact, mumbled awkward goodbyes. They knew. Of course they knew. Office gossip travels faster than wildfire. And Amanda, she wasn't even there. Conveniently had an off-site meeting that day. Couldn't even face me. Couldn't even pretend to care that she'd just destroyed my career and our friendship in one calculated move. But here's the thing about betrayal. It clarifies things. It burns away all the excuses, all the self-deception, all the loyalty that kept you blind. And once you see clearly, once you really understand the depth of the Trayson, that's when the anger sets in. That's when you start thinking about vindication. I spent my first week of unemployment cycling through the usual stages. Denial. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they'd realized they needed me. Bargaining. Maybe if I'd handled things differently, stood up to Amanda earlier, been more assertive. Depression. Lying on my couch, eating ice cream, questioning every decision I'd ever made. But anger? Anger was where I landed and stayed. Because the more I replayed everything in my mind, the more I realized just how deliberate it all was. Amanda hadn't stumbled into this success. She'd planned it. From the moment she walked into Henderson & Associates, she'd been sizing up the landscape, identifying the power players, calculating her moves. And I'd been the perfect stepping stone. Trusting, supportive, too damn nice for my own good. She'd used my goodwill to get in the door, used my knowledge to learn the business, used my relationships to build her own network. And then, when she found a faster route to the top, a route that went straight through Robert Henderson's bed, she used that too. And I was collateral damage. Worse than that, I was an obstacle that needed to be removed. The golpe wasn't just getting me fired. It was the systematic way she'd made me invisible. First, irrelevant second, and then expendable. It was months of careful manipulation, of turning my own boss against me, of painting herself as the future and me as the past. That takes skill. That takes cold, calculated ruthlessness. And you know what? I respected the game. I hated her for it, but I respected how well she'd played it, which meant I needed to play it better. I started doing research. Not the angry, impulsive kind where you just want to lash out and hurt someone. The methodical kind. The kind where you gather information, identify vulnerabilities, wait for the right moment. Because revenge isn't about making yourself feel better for 5 minutes. It's about making them understand what they did, making them feel the consequences, making them pay. First, I needed to confirm what I already suspected. I reached out to a few people still at the firm, people who weren't in Amanda's inner circle, people who'd actually liked me, grabbed coffee, asked casual questions, listened to the gossip. And oh, there was gossip. Apparently, Amanda and Robert weren't as discreet as they thought. People had seen them leaving together, getting into the same car. The late-night meetings were a running joke. But here's the thing. Nobody was doing anything about it. Because Robert was the boss. Because Amanda was untouchable as long as she had his protection. Because that's how these things work in corporate America. The affair was an open secret. But it was a secret everyone was invested in keeping quiet. Everyone except me. Because I had nothing left to lose. Then I found out about Catherine, Robert's wife. I did some digging. Social media, mutual connections, that kind of thing. Catherine Henderson wasn't just some housewife sitting at home waiting for her husband. She was on the board of directors. She and her brother had provided significant capital when Robert and his partner first started the firm. In other words, she wasn't just Robert's wife. She was a major stakeholder in the company. She had power, influence, and a hell of a lot to lose if her husband's affair became public. But more importantly, she had leverage. The kind of leverage that could bring Robert down, and Amanda with him. I sat on this information for 3 weeks. Not because I was hesitating, but because I wanted to time it right. I wanted maximum impact. I wanted to make sure that when the bomb dropped, there'd be no way for Amanda to weasel out of the fallout. The perfect opportunity came when Henderson and Associates landed their biggest client yet, a national restaurant chain looking to completely rebrand. It was the kind of account that could define a firm's reputation. Amanda was, of course, leading the project. She'd been parading around the office like she'd already won awards for it, posting about it on LinkedIn, making sure everyone knew this was her victory. The client kickoff meeting was scheduled for a Thursday. Big presentation, all the department heads. Robert presiding over it like the proud puppet master he was. Amanda had been prepping for weeks, and I knew this was her moment to solidify her position as the golden child of Henderson and Associates. I sent the email to Catherine on Wednesday night. Simple, direct, factual. No emotional rants, no personal attacks. Just the truth, backed up with dates, locations, and a few discreetly taken photos that I'd gathered from my sources still at the firm. I included screenshots of Amanda's social media, posts showing her at restaurants and events that Robert had also attended, always just a few hours apart in their posting. I included the office security logs, showing them leaving together late at night, information I'd gotten from Mark, the security guard who'd always been friendly with me, and was less than thrilled about how I'd been treated. I didn't ask Catherine to do anything, didn't suggest a course of action. I just provided information, and let her decide what to do with it. Because, here's the thing about powerful women. They don't need you to tell them how to handle their business. They just need you to give them the ammunition. Catherine read that email Thursday morning, right around the time Robert was probably drinking his first coffee, and Amanda was doing her final presentation run-through. I know this because that's when everything at Henderson and Associates went to hell. Patricia called me 3 days later. Her voice was tight, professional, but I could hear the stress underneath. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did you send information about Robert and Amanda to Catherine Henderson? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Silence. Then, why would you do that? Because it was true, I said simply. Because it was relevant to the company. Because Catherine had a right to know. And because nobody else had the guts to tell her. More silence. Then Patricia sighed. This long, exhausted sound. You realize this has created a massive situation here, right? Catherine showed up to the client meeting, in the middle of Amanda's presentation. It was a disaster. Good, I thought. Out loud, I said. I imagine it was. Robert's taking a leave of absence. Catherine's calling for an emergency board meeting. Amanda's... Patricia trailed off. Amanda's what? I asked, even though I could guess. Amanda's being let go. Effective immediately. Catherine made it clear that she either leaves or Catherine pulls her investment from the firm. It wasn't really a choice. I let that sink in. Amanda, brilliant, ambitious, calculating Amanda, was out. Not just out of a job, but out with a scandal attached to her name. In our industry, Word travels fast. She'd be lucky to get hired anywhere in Chicago after this. I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of all this, Patricia continued. I know you and Amanda were close. This must be difficult for you. I almost laughed. Close. We'd been close when I was useful to her, when I was the stepping stone she needed, when I was too blind to see what she was really doing. But the minute I became an obstacle, I was expendable. It's not difficult at all, I told Patricia. Amanda made her choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Patricia was quiet for a moment, then said, Between you and me, I wish I'd seen this coming. I wish I'd listened when people tried to warn me about their relationship. And I wish I'd fought harder to keep you. You were right about a lot of things, and I'm sorry we didn't recognize that sooner. Too little. Too late. But I appreciated the sentiment. The full story came out over the next week, mostly through my network of former colleagues who couldn't resist sharing the drama. Apparently, Catherine had indeed shown up to the client presentation, walked right into the conference room, and very calmly asked to speak with her husband. Robert, knowing he was screwed, had followed her out. Amanda tried to continue the presentation, but everyone in that room knew something major was happening. The clients ended up pulling out of the deal. They didn't want to be associated with a firm in crisis. And who could blame them? Robert's leave of absence became a forced resignation after the board meeting. Catherine kept her investment but demanded major restructuring and oversight. She wasn't going to let her money burn because her husband couldn't keep it in his pants. And Amanda tried to spin it, of course. Posted some vague thing on LinkedIn about new opportunities and exciting changes. But the damage was done. People in the industry knew. They always know. She'd been exposed not just as someone who'd had an affair with her boss, but as someone who'd leveraged that affair for professional gain and had thrown a colleague under the bus to secure her position. She tried to reach out to me a few weeks later, left voicemails, sent texts, even showed up at my apartment one evening. I watched her through the peephole, saw her standing there looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, and I didn't open the door. What was there to say? Sorry she got caught. Sorry her plan didn't work out. She finally sent a long email. It was full of justifications and excuses. She'd been stressed. She'd made mistakes. Things got complicated. She never meant for me to get hurt. The classic non-apology apology. But buried in all that defensive nonsense was one line that actually rang true. I wanted it so badly, Sarah. The success, the recognition, the power. I wanted it more than anything. And there it was. The real Treso. Not just that she'd betrayed me, but that she'd always been willing to. That our friendship was only valuable as long as it served her ambitions. That the moment she saw a faster route to the top, everything else became expendable, including me. I deleted the email without responding. She didn't deserve my words, my anger, or my forgiveness. She deserved exactly what she got. A front row seat, too. Watching her carefully constructed empire crumble because she'd built it on lies and manipulation. The best revenge, they say, is living well. And you know what? They're not wrong. I got a new job about 6 weeks later. Actually ended up at a firm that's way better than Henderson & Associates. Better pay, better culture, better opportunities. Turns out, Patricia's letter of recommendation was genuine, and several people in the industry had noticed how I'd been treated. They respected that I'd landed on my feet. But the living well part? That's not the part that felt like real vindication. The real satisfaction came from knowing that Amanda would always wonder if she'd have made it on her own merit. She'd wonder if she'd have gotten those promotions, those projects, those opportunities without sleeping her way to the top. She'd wonder if anyone would ever trust her again, or if they'd always be questioning her motives. She'd wonder, and she'd know the answer, because deep down she knew the truth the same way I did. She hadn't earned it. She'd schemed for it, and when her scheme fell apart, she had nothing left to stand on. No real relationships, no real accomplishments that were purely hers, just a trail of burned bridges and a reputation she'd never fully recover. You see, that's the thing about golpes and traições. They might work in the short term. You might get what you want, climb the ladder, achieve the success, but if it's all built on betrayal, eventually it collapses. Eventually someone sees through it. Eventually karma shows up with receipts. And venganza? Real revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about revealing who they really are. It's about making sure their actions have consequences. It's about refusing to let them get away with it, just because they're charming or ambitious, or good at playing the game. I didn't destroy Amanda's career. She did that herself. I just made sure the truth came out. And honestly, that feels better than any apology ever could. Looking back now, I realized that Amanda's biggest mistake wasn't the affair. It wasn't even getting me fired. It was underestimating me. She thought I'd just fade away quietly, lick my wounds, move on. She thought I was too nice, too loyal, too soft to fight back. She mistook kindness for weakness, and that miscalculation cost her everything. There's a weird freedom in being betrayed by someone you trusted completely. It's like the worst thing already happened. So you've got nothing left to fear. No more people-pleasing. No more putting others first. No more sacrificing your own interests for the sake of friendship or loyalty or whatever pretty word you want to use for letting yourself be taken advantage of. I learned that you can't help people who see your help as an opportunity to exploit. You can't build genuine relationships with people who view everyone around them as stepping stones. And you definitely can't trust someone who's willing to betray you. Once. Because they'll do it again, and again, until someone stops them. Amanda taught me that lesson, and Catherine Henderson made sure she learned it too. Funny how these things work out. So yeah, I guess you could say this story has a happy ending. I got a better job, learned valuable lessons about trust and boundaries, and watched someone who wronged me face real consequences for their actions. Not through some cosmic justice or karmic magic, but through simple cause and effect. Actions have consequences, even when you think you're too smart or too protected to face them. The biggest trahison wasn't losing my job or my friend. It was realizing that the person I'd invested years of loyalty and trust in had never really valued me at all. That I'd been useful, not loved, important, not irreplaceable, a means to an end, not an end in herself. But you know what? That realization set me free. Free to build better relationships with people who actually value me. Free to advocate for myself, without feeling guilty. Free to understand that loyalty is something you give to people who've earned it, not something you hand out like party favors, hoping they'll eventually reciprocate. Amanda's gone now. I heard through the grapevine she moved to Denver, took some mid-level position at a small firm, starting over, rebuilding her career from scratch. Maybe she learned something from all this. Maybe she didn't. Honestly, I don't care anymore. She's not my friend, not my enemy, not my problem. She's just someone I used to know who made terrible choices and had to live with them. And me? I'm thriving. My new firm just promoted me to Director of Marketing Strategy. I've built genuine friendships with my colleagues, the kind where we actually support each other instead of secretly competing. I've learned to recognize red flags, to trust my instincts, to value my own worth instead of seeking validation from people who don't deserve to give it. So if there's a moral to this story, it's this. Sometimes the worst betrayal leads to the best transformation. Sometimes you need to see someone's true colors to appreciate the people who've been genuine all along. And sometimes, the best thing someone can do for you is show you exactly who they are, so you can get them the hell out of your life. The golpe Amanda pulled? It hurt. The trahison cut deep. But the venganza, that wasn't about hurting her back. It was about making sure the truth came out, that justice was served, and that I walked away stronger instead of broken. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Because now I know better. I do better. I am better. And that's the real victory. You know, looking back on everything that happened, the wildest part is that I almost didn't send that email to Catherine. I sat there for hours, cursor hovering over the send button, questioning whether I was doing the right thing. Was I being vindictive? Was I stooping to Amanda's level? Would this make me just as bad as her? But then I remembered something my mom used to tell me. Doing the right thing isn't always comfortable, baby girl. Sometimes it's messy and complicated, and people won't like you for it. But silence is complicity, and watching someone get away with hurting others, that makes you part of the problem. She was right. This wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about accountability. It was about refusing to let someone's bad behavior go unchallenged just because confronting it was uncomfortable. It was about protecting the next person who might trust Amanda, might help her, might make the same mistake I did. Because here's the brutal truth. If I hadn't said anything, Amanda would still be at Henderson and Associates, still manipulating, still scheming, still hurting people to get ahead. Robert would still be abusing his power, using his position to exploit younger employees, and both of them would have learned that betrayal works, that there are no consequences for crossing lines and using people. Instead, they learned different lessons, harder lessons, the kind that actually stick. The aftermath wasn't all smooth sailing for me either. Some people in the industry thought I was vindictive. There were whispers that I couldn't handle competition, that I was bitter about being outperformed. A few former colleagues stopped returning my calls. It stung, not gonna lie. But the people who mattered, the ones with integrity, the ones who'd been paying attention, they understood. They'd seen how I'd been treated. They knew the timeline, knew I'd brought Amanda into the firm, knew she'd systematically undermined me. And when the affair came out, it all made sense. The sudden promotion, the preferential treatment, the way my contributions got minimized while hers got amplified. My new boss, Elizabeth, actually brought it up during my interview. "I'm going to ask you directly about what happened at Henderson and Associates," she said, leaning back in her chair. "I've heard the official story and the office gossip. I want to hear your version." I told her everything. The friendship, the recommendation, the slow erosion of our relationship, the affair, the firing, the email to Catherine, all of it. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You know what I respect about that? You didn't make yourself the hero. You acknowledged your part. trusting too much, ignoring warning signs, not advocating for yourself sooner. But you also didn't let someone get away with unethical behavior just because confronting it was hard. That tells me you have integrity and spine. We need both in this industry. I got the job offer 2 days later, but the real transformation wasn't professional, it was personal. I started seeing a therapist, which sounds cliche but was genuinely helpful. We talked about boundaries, about recognizing patterns of one-sided relationships, about the difference between being kind and being a doormat. Dr. Morrison asked me once, "What did you get from your friendship with Amanda?" I started listing things: support, companionship, shared experiences. She stopped me. "No, I mean, what did you personally get? What did she give you that you couldn't give yourself?" I sat there stumped, because the truth was, I'd spent years giving to that friendship. Time, energy, opportunities, support, without ever examining what I was receiving in return. I'd been so focused on being a good friend that I never noticed I was the only one trying. That was the real gulpy. Not Amanda's betrayal, but my own willingness to accept less than I deserved because I was afraid of being alone, afraid of conflict, afraid of acknowledging that someone I loved didn't love me back the same way. I made peace with that. It took time, but I got there. And once I did, my whole approach to relationships changed. I started paying attention to reciprocity, to whether people's actions matched their words, to whether I felt energized or drained after spending time with someone. I built new friendships, real ones, with women like Emma and Jasmine from my new firm, who celebrate my wins instead of competing with them, who show up when I need them, who challenge me to be better without tearing me down. Emma actually said something that stuck with me. We were having drinks after work one night, and I was telling her the whole Amanda saga. When I finished, she raised her glass and said, "Here's to women who build each other up instead of stepping on each other to climb higher. And here's to you for refusing to let someone else's betrayal make you bitter." But I'd be lying if I said there weren't moments when the anger resurfaces, like when I see Amanda's LinkedIn profile and she's somehow landed at a decent firm in Denver, presenting herself as this marketing visionary, or when mutual acquaintances mention her name like nothing happened, like the whole scandal was just some misunderstanding that got blown out of proportion. Those moments remind me that not everyone faces consequences forever, that some people get second chances they don't deserve, that life isn't always fair, and karma doesn't always deliver the justice we think it should. But then I remember, I'm not responsible for Amanda's redemption arc or lack thereof. I'm not the universe's justice system. I did what I needed to do. I told the truth. I protected myself, and I moved forward. What she does with her life now isn't my concern. The hardest part, honestly, was forgiving myself, for being blind, for trusting too easily, for putting someone else's success above my own well-being. Dr. Morrison helped me understand that self-compassion isn't about excusing your mistakes. It's about recognizing that you did the best you could with the information you had at the time. Past. Sarah didn't know Amanda would betray her. Past Sarah believed in loyalty and friendship, and the power of helping others succeed. Past Sarah wasn't naive. She was hopeful, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as present Sarah learns from it. Present Sarah knows better now. She knows that not everyone deserves your loyalty. She knows that ambition without ethics is just greed in a power suit. She knows that standing up for yourself isn't cruel. It's necessary. And she knows that the best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public humiliation. It's building a life so good that your betrayer becomes irrelevant. I ran into someone from Henderson and Associates a few months ago. Marcus, one of the junior analysts who'd always been cool with me. We grabbed coffee, caught up on industry gossip. He told me the firm was still recovering from the scandal, that morale had taken a serious hit, that several key clients had left during the chaos. "Patricia asks about you sometimes," he said, stirring his latte. "I think she feels guilty about how everything went down. She knows Amanda played her, knows she should have seen it coming." "Does she, though?" I asked. Because from where I sat, a lot of people saw it coming. They just didn't want to deal with it. Marcus nodded slowly. "Fair point. For what it's worth, people miss having you around. The new girl they hired to replace you is competent, but she doesn't have your instincts. Patricia's said it herself. She wishes she'd fought harder to keep you." I appreciated Marcus telling me that, but it didn't change anything. Henderson and Associates was my past, and I'd built a future. That didn't include them. Patricia's regret couldn't undo the months of being undermined, the humiliation of being fired, the betrayal of watching someone I'd vouched for throw me under the bus. Besides, I was genuinely happy where I was. My new team respected me. My boss trusted my judgment, and I was working on projects that actually excited me. No drama, no politics, no looking over my shoulder wondering who was plotting against me. Just good work with good people. That's the thing about moving forward. You can't do it while constantly looking back. You can acknowledge what happened, learn from it, even feel satisfaction when justice is served. But dwelling on it, that just keeps you trapped in someone else's story. Amanda's betrayal was a chapter in my life, not the whole book. An important chapter, sure. One that changed me, shaped me, taught me lessons I wouldn't have learned otherwise. But still just a chapter. And I was busy writing new ones. Better ones. With characters who actually deserve to be in my story. The last time I heard Amanda's name was about 6 months ago. A former colleague mentioned she'd reached out, trying to network, looking for connections back in Chicago. Apparently, Denver wasn't working out as well as she'd hoped. Funny how that happens when your reputation precedes you. The colleague asked if I'd be willing to make an introduction at my current firm. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Are you serious right now? After everything she did? I know, he said quickly. I told her it was a long shot, but she's really struggling, Sarah. I think she's genuinely changed. She seems humbled by everything that happened. Humbled. That's an interesting word for facing consequences. But even if Amanda had genuinely changed, even if she'd spent every day since then becoming a better person, it wasn't my responsibility to help her. I'd given her one chance. The chance that destroyed my career and our friendship. She didn't get another one. Tell Amanda I said no, I replied, and tell her not to contact anyone else in my network. She burned that bridge, and I'm not rebuilding it for her. Maybe that makes me cold. Maybe some people would say forgiveness means giving second chances. But I learned the hard way that forgiveness doesn't require you to let someone hurt you again. You can forgive someone and still keep them out of your life. You can wish them well from a distance while protecting your peace up close. The truth is, I do forgive Amanda. Not because she deserves it, but because holding on to anger was exhausting. I forgive her for being ambitious, for wanting success, even for making terrible choices in pursuit of it. I forgive her for being human and flawed and selfish. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened, or giving her access to my life again. It just means I'm not carrying the weight of her betrayal anymore. I've set it down, walked away, and built something better without it. That's the real ending to this story. Not the dramatic confrontation or the public scandal or the professional vindication, though those were all satisfying in their own way. The real ending is me, sitting in my corner office with a job I love, surrounded by people who value me, finally understanding my own worth. Amanda taught me what betrayal looks like, but more importantly, she taught me what it doesn't have to look like. She showed me the kind of person I never want to become, someone so obsessed with winning that they forget the cost, someone so focused on the destination that they destroy people along the way, someone who mistakes manipulation for strategy and calls it success. I learned that true success isn't about climbing over people. It's about building something sustainable, something you can be proud of when you look in the mirror. It's about relationships based on mutual respect, not mutual exploitation. It's about winning without needing someone else to lose. And I learned that sometimes the biggest gulpy someone can pull on you is actually a gift in disguise, because it forces you to see clearly, to value yourself properly, to understand that loyalty given to the wrong person is just wasted energy. So thank you, Amanda, for showing me who you really were, for teaching me to be more careful with my trust, for giving me the kick in the ass I needed to stop being everyone's cheerleader and start being my own advocate. I wouldn't go through it again by choice, but I also wouldn't undo it if I could, because the woman I am now, stronger, wiser, more selective about who gets access to her life, she only exists because of what you did. And that woman, she's pretty damn awesome. The last I heard, you're still in Denver, still trying to rebuild your career, still dealing with the reputation you created for yourself. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've become someone better. I genuinely do. But I'll never know for sure, because that's not my story to follow anymore. I've got my own story now, and it's a good one. No trahissons, no gulpies, no venganza needed. Just honest work, genuine relationships, and a life I'm proud of. And honestly, that's the best possible ending I could have asked for. So there it is. The whole messy, complicated truth about what happens when you trust the wrong person with the right opportunity. I went from being someone's champion to being their obstacle, and eventually, to being their cautionary tale. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Because this story taught me that betrayal doesn't define you. How you handle it does. Thank you for sticking with me through this whole journey. I know it wasn't easy to hear, and some parts probably hit a little too close to home if you've ever been burned by someone you trusted. But that's exactly why I wanted to share it. Because you're not alone. Because betrayal is universal, but so is survival. And if my story helps even one person recognize the red flags I missed, or gives them the courage to stand up for themselves the way I eventually did, then it was worth reliving all the painful parts. Now, I've got a question for you. Have you ever had someone in your life who you helped, supported, or believed in, only to have them turn around and betray you? How did you handle it? Did you get your justice? Or are you still waiting for karma to do its thing? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, sometimes it helps to know we're all fighting similar battles. And hey, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, you're the real MVP. Hit that like button to let me know you were here. Subscribe to the channel if you want more real talk about the messy parts of life that nobody wants to admit. And smash that notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Because trust me, I've got more to tell. Thanks again for being here. Remember, the best revenge is becoming someone they can't touch anymore. Now go build that life.